Andariki Namaskaram. Welcome to this program Conversations with Kasturi Muralikrishna. Every week, I shall be introducing you a writer par excellence in languages other than Telugu. So today we have a Marathi science fiction writer. Basically, I was introduced to him as a science fiction writer, but I came to know that he has many facets to his personality. He is a writer of both fiction and non-fiction, and he is a very distinguished professor. He retired as a principal. So today we have a very important and interesting personality with us to share his thoughts about his books and life. Welcome to this program. Namaskaram, Ranjan Gargji.
Namaste, Ranjan Garge. Yeah.
Ranjan Garge.
Yes.
So welcome to this program.
Thank
So
you.
today we will be discussing about you and your writings, basically with emphasis on science fiction writing and
Yes.
with the multifaceted personality that you are. I don't think it will be sufficient if we just confine our discussion to one program. So we may have a few more such conversations when we can cover all your writings and aspects of the personality. So please kindly tell me about the background, like your childhood, and what are the influences that worked on you to become what you are today.
See, I come from an academic family, and my father was a Sanskrit scholar.
Mhm.
He survived for 103 years. And
Wow.
the big legacy that I have obtained from him. Basically, he was a PhD in Mimamsa in 1947.
Mhm.
And therefore, we had an academic environment in our house. Basically, he was interested in Vedic mathematics. That was his topic of interest. And therefore, when we were children, he used to tell us so many interesting things like Bhaskaracharya's mathematics and Aryabhatiya and all these things. So what happened, when I think maybe in the first year of my college, he said that why don't you, write on Ramanujan? And I remember that was in 1969 that I wrote my first article, maybe science article, I would say, on Ramanujan's life and work. And that actually was quite inspiring because he said that you have not only to write, but you have to translate it from English to Marathi and you have to recite it. And
Mhm.
all these exercises he got it done from me, and that is how I got interested. Now, maybe since 1969, I have more than thousands of articles in papers and magazines and all that, and that is how I started writing. Now, there was another guru who came in my life, and that was my aunt. And she said that whenever you experience something new, you have to jot it down. See, don't just talk about it. And therefore, in 1973, when I had been to the mountaineering course in Manali, and when I came back, see, I had a very serious accident at the height of 16,000 feet.
Mhm.
When I was narrating all that, she said that wait, because that time the recording and all these things were not there. So he said that you start writing and then you talk. And therefore, I very calm and quietly sat. I wrote down the whole incidents, and I tell you now, writing is not enough. Now you have to narrate it. And therefore, she arranged the program in one of the road track clubs, and she said that you have to talk in that road track club. Now she said, how would you talk? See, this is a training. I said, I will just talk, I will, create a picture. She said, no. The listeners, they don't know what is ISAX. See, they don't know what is the spike of an ISAX which entered into your leg. And therefore, you will have to draw a picture on a blackboard that is of ISAX and the entire route that you followed. We actually climbed that time a friendship peak. And therefore, it was so interesting, I tell you, it was a sort of audio visual in those days. And that is how I think, you need gurus, for narration, for presentations, and for writings and all that. So that is how I went on writing. Then I entered into the area of the hardcore science writing. And in that particular writing, I have contributed some more than 25 to 30 books. And then, of course, as the people, started liking it, I my first book came in 1980 and on science. Basically, that was Sukshma Darshakatun, that is through microscope. and that became quite popular, in the students basically. And then I have a big list, as you must have seen on my website. What happened, later on, what I thought is, writing on science is okay, but whatever discoveries are, taking place in the field of microbiology, biotechnology, DNA recombinant technology, they are so mind blowing that why shouldn't we, fix them in a story and write a fiction. And therefore, that is how I started actually writing on the fiction. For example, see, DNA modeling, three-dimensional DNA modeling, that came in my reading. So what happened? I created a story known as the Kutumbakam. That is the name of the story, and that particular story was based on a phantom pain. Phantom pain means if your leg is cut, maybe at the thigh, what happens, that patient senses the pains as if the pain is going to the fingertip, leg fingertip, even if there is no finger and there is no tip. And these pains are very, agonic, and they can't, survive with them. So I created a technology. See, a science fiction writer has to create a technology, but based on the basic principles of science, and that is how the three-dimensional DNA modeling I created. And then the whole story goes, and it becomes so popular that they said, "Ki, we think that as if something is happening in reality." And therefore, like that, for example, head transplant. Now, head transplant is beyond imagination, because there are more than 500 microsurgeries. Unless you do successfully, you can't, actually join the head, and nobody has done the human head transplant. But I created that particular story with few technicalities in that. And you know that there is one disease known as the muscle atrophy.
Yes.
uh, Stephen Hawking, he had a muscle atrophy. So in such kinds of patients, their brain is working, but their entire body is gone. So why not to transplant this particular active brain on a brain dead person's body? Okay.
I'll interrupt you here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, you have to adjust your cell phone because you are appearing from below.
Okay.
Uh, Another thing is,
Huh?
I interrupt you just to ask you one thing, because you talked about phantom limb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Phantom limb is the first horror story that I have written. So I would
Okay.
like to know how you wove a story around that concept of phantom limb.
Uh-huh.
What is the story?
Yeah. 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 The story is, now, am I comfortable on the
Uh,
box?
but the problem is, you're still appearing as if you're focused from below. You're not in line with the. Now it is all right.
I will have to just hold it like that. Okay.
Oh, can't you keep it there with something?
Yeah, that is, I'm trying.
A laptop or a computer would have been more comfortable, most probably. This is fine now.
Is it okay now? Yeah.
Yes. So please tell me about that story, Phantom Limb.
Yeah, yeah. No, phantom limb means, there is a, what you can say, the lady working in the area of, she's in charge of the Cobra division, and she's fighting with the Naxalists. And there is a fight, and during that fight, basically, she comes across a very serious accident, and the whole that particular jeep, gets dropped on her leg, and she loses the leg. Now, after she loses the leg, when her husband, who is also an IPS officer, he brings her home from Chandigarh hospital. But that pain, creates a big problem. And that pain is so horrible that she goes on, yawning throughout the night. And that is how they actually approach to this Kutumbakam. And this Kutumbakam people, they are basically a group of the retired, not retired basically, but Nobel laureates from different area. And these people, they come together and they start the multi, facility center there. And there the Dr. Piyush Agrawal, who is a Nobel laureate, he says that yes, we are trying something for this. And that is what they do is they actually take the three-dimensional a kind of a DNA model of her leg. The part of the leg which is not there, that also can be depicted, because it is being generated out of her genes. Okay. And now what happens is they trace out, very interestingly, they trace out these particular kinds of pains, traveling from your maybe the west region, till the end of that particular tip of the finger. And they say that which is the gene responsible for that. Now what happens is there is a gene, and that they call them as a phantom gene. And they said that this phantom gene will have to be controlled. Now
Oh.
how to control? As soon as that particular pain travels till the thigh, that is the cut portion, you have to stop it. And accordingly the mutations will have to be performed. And that is how they mutate that particular gene. And that is how that particular pain, it stops there only. But now the pain doesn't troubles her. That is very important. And after that, she is given the prosthetic leg, and then she starts her duty also. And that is how the solutions are taken out for these phantom pains. So this is the story. I don't know.
I go a different type of story according to phantom limb. I
Okay.
based my story in Iraq when the war was going on.
Okay.
So a person approaches the doctor, a UNO doctor there, and
Hmm.
says that he is actually having a kind of irritation, a
Hmm.
kind of he wants a scratch there, his leg hand. So
Okay.
doctor asked him to show him his hand, but the problem is his hand was cut,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and still he feels that pain. He feels all those irritation. So the
Hmm.
doctor understands this phantom limb theory, explains to the patient, and
Hmm.
gives him some medicine. But again, he comes back after 1 week, says that
Hmm.
it's throbbing now. He still is unable to control that pain.
Hmm.
Then the doctor understands that
Hmm.
in Tikrit, so many limbs of patients were cut off and thrown into a kind of dustbin.
Hmm.
So he goes there in search of this fellow's hand. He
Okay.
finds a hand there,
Hmm.
which is crawling with all sorts of insects.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
as the insects are crawling over his cut hand, he
Hmm.
is feeling that sensation here in the phantom limb.
Okay.
So he takes out that and burns it. Then he loses that
Ach-
sensation. But the
Okay.
problem is the doctor who is telling us the story
Hmm.
also is killed in the war by a terrorist. But just as a phantom limb feels the pain, a
Hmm.
writer also writes with his phantom hand. That is the story.
Okay. Okay. He writes with his phantom hand. Okay.
Yes. So this is how the same concept inspired two writers in two
Yeah.
different ways.
Yeah. Two different ways. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now to the next story, head transplantation.
Yeah.
In- uh,
See, in head transplantation, what happens is the doctor says that because there is no any facility available, but something is going on in Vienna, and they are now coming to the solution, the last stage, and they said that something was going in Vienna, but this story happens in India.
mm,
Ritvik is a boy, and he's a young entrepreneur. And what happens, on his first day of celebrating as a CEO of that company, he pours the beer in the glass, but somehow he can't pour it properly. It somehow goes here and there. And why it is happening? Prime Minister is supposed to come, and he couldn't, actually offer the glass of beer to Prime Minister. But ultimately, his father, he comes and he, controls the situation. But it remains in his mind that why we can't have that particular control. And then next day also the same thing happens, and that is how they go to the doctor. The doctor said that this is a kind of a Wernicke Hoffman disease. It's a the muscle atrophy, and see there is no any solution to
mm,
this. We'll try. Somehow what happens, in the meantime, the one of his father's friend, his daughter comes from US, and she is a physiotherapist. Now that physiotherapist, she is also in search of some social work in India, and she specialized in this, the people suffering from muscle atrophy. So his friend phones him and he says that my daughter is there, so why shouldn't you try? She comes, Sanika comes home, And she says that yes, I will see that, I can do something for him. Somehow he goes on losing. He comes on the electronic chair and so on and so forth. But ultimately what happens one day, she feels, he feels, means Rutvik feels so much comfortable, and he just putting his head on her breast, and she also just looks at him, his face, and she says that how happy he looks in spite of all this thing, and she actually falls in his love. So what happens is Sanika proposes. Now the Rutvik's father and mother, they say that, see Sanika, this is not good because he is on the verge of now a last stage of his life, and what are you going to do? But she says that no, but I have seen something in him, and I'm going to do something good in his life, and therefore they literally marry. And there is a doctor who witnesses the marriage and all that. And recently the news comes from Vienna, and the doctor says that you better send this particular case and you present this case in Vienna conference. We are getting all these formalities done and getting the Italian government to give us permission to do it, because permission was very difficult to get. And that is how it all happens. They go there, means Dr. Naik and Sanika, they go to Vienna, they present their case, and there the doctor declares that okay, Rutrix will be the first case in the world where we shall try his head transplant. And that is how after 6 months they get the brain dead person. That brain dead person is a European person. And immediately they say that, yeah, we have a brain dead man, and we are now going to cut his head, and his body will be transplanted with his head. And that is how they take Rutvik along. And this particular operation, which is totally the robotic operation, that takes place, that becomes successful, and ultimately, Rutvik, gets up the body of a healthy person, and but of course the thinking is of Rutvik. Then there are a lot many protocols and all that, because the one who has donated the body, their relatives are already told that you don't have any kind of a, what you can say, now on this body, because this body is now Rutvik's body and not your son's body. And that is how very interesting complications take place. Ultimately it happens, and Sanika now very happily marries with Rutvik, and ultimately his whole story comes out. So this
When
is
was it written? When was this written?
they return after the operation is
No,
there.
when was the story written? अब कब लिखे थे ये कहानी?
Yeah, now this story means I wrote it maybe some 5 years before.
5 years before.
Yeah, 5 years before. And the most interesting part is, this story is not, this is the second part of the story, but initially what happens is this entire earth is in a chaotic situation. The people are now not happy with the normalcy, and therefore on this planet, maybe by 2050, the people started practicing hermaphroditism. They don't require any female to produce a child. And that is how this community, and there is Mr. Nano. This Mr. Nano has two children who they are produced hermaphroditically. And one is, nutri, means neutrons, and other is the positron. So these two sons and daughter, one son and one daughter, he says that, see, we have so much gone ahead, and now there are lot many cameras, chimera you call it, is the man getting head of a horse, and this practice also has started on the planet. And such kinds of chimeras were given the place near New Zealand as one of the isolated island, and they said, you stay there only because he has the strength of a horse and the brain of a man. So that is how these chimeras are. So ultimately, what happens is, they say that if this is possible, then when did it start? Was it possible in human being? And therefore this nutri, he goes to the he takes out the YouTubes of older YouTubes and all that, and there he gets the video, and this entire video is of Mr. Rutvik. And he said that this is the first case on this planet which took place in 2025 or maybe 2030. And so that is how its story goes. Very interesting, the Ganapati and all these kinds are the chimeras, and these chimeras are now a very common practice on this planet. That is what I have tried to show.
True.
So that is how the story goes.
But when you're speaking, what I am thinking is, how
Yeah,
do you club so many scientific facts and information?
yeah.
So, how do you gather your material for the story?
I gather actually, I instead of you can say not gathering, I have been reading.
Oh,
I have been reading voraciously in variety of subjects. So what happens is, let's say for example, I am a mountaineer. So I take a situation from a mountain, which hardly any science fiction writer can take. Okay. Now I have studied Vedas and all that. One of the stories is Veda. Veda is one of the stories. A very interesting story.
please tell
So
me the story.
now, this Ved is a story when Veda Bhavan is being, erected on this planet, and very beautifully, all these, the what you can say, the Pandu Lipi scripts and everything is now preserved there. And the Sushruta time, the sutures and this and equipments and everything is there. There is, the day is there when it gets inaugurated, and Sharangadhar Shastri is now going to speak. Okay. And Mr. Himanshu is going to actually interview him. And the whole thing starts. But, suddenly a guard, the watchman guard, from outside, he comes in and he brings a man who looks very odd. He is a human being, but he looks like an android, you know and he said, this particular man, standing outside this bhavan, and I think he's doing some conspiracy. So this Sharangadhar says that, yes, Mister, he's a sadhu. He's a sadhu, putting all these things, everything, with Rudraksha Mala and Uparna and all that. So he said, what's wrong with you? What do you want? He says, I just, came, and this fellow was not allowing me to enter in. And he says that all Vidwan people are sitting inside, and so you are not allowed to go. But ultimately, now I have come. So he says, Sharangadhar says, ki, okay, what do you want? He says, see, I want the suture that was used by Sushruta while he operated the nose. So he said, why do you want? Uh, he said, I came to know that you have one. I have one, but there is an order of two sutures. He said, order? Who has ordered you for two sutures? He says that, yeah, see, this is a different planet. And the people from different planet, they have ordered two sutures. He said, how and what exactly you do? He says that, see, I am from a extraterrestrial, this thing, galaxy, Gleason, and on Gleason, there is a number four planet, and I come from that planet. On that planet, 25% people are robots, 25 people percent are androids, and remaining 50% are the real people. And these 50% real people, they manage we all robots. And I am in the business, I am in the business of providing all these kinds of very different things to different people throughout the galaxies. And this is one of my jobs, and I came to know that India is a country where Sushruta was there, and therefore this particular suture must be there in India only. And just now I got a call that yes, there is a conference going on, and within 5 seconds I have arrived here. And this Sharangadhar just looks at him and he says, are you pagal? You are mad. You should be put behind the bars. What are you talking? Then he said, see, don't be hurry. I will tell you something which you will be astonished with. And he starts chanting the 15th Adhyaya, three shlokas from Sushruta Samhita, which depicts how to replace the nose. And then he again gets stunned. He says that, what is this man? He knows all these things. And therefore he starts believing him. And he says that, okay, then ultimately, from where you have come? He said, I have come from Gleason. And what is your name? He said, I am G17. He said, what is G17? He said, my number is 17 and G for Gleason. And but what is your name? So he said that, okay, you can call me as Ellie. So Eli. So this Eli now starts talking now more frankly, and he says that, okay, Mr. Eli, tell me, what do you want more about it? You are cheating us, and I'm not going to give you this particular kind of a suture that I have, needle that I have, like that only because I have only one, and we have paid 25,000 rupees, which we got from Bihar excavation. So ultimately, what happens is, he says, okay, if you don't give, but see, I have got a very little time left. So he says, little time means where are you supposed to go? He says, I'm going to disappear very soon, and you have to hurry up and do the deal. So he said, I'm not going to do any deal unless you give something in return. So he said, what can I do? I don't have much money to give. He said, no, no, you will have to give something because you also is a man who is interested in all these antique things. So he says, okay. Now I have a small dabbi, okay, a box, a very small box. And you know what happens is he presses one button and the box opens, just like the curtain opens, and there are two small dolls which are the android dolls, and these dolls, they are exactly like human being but very small in size. And he says that it took lot many years to develop these android dolls which have even emotions, and he says, okay, then emotions is what? Then he says, he then presses the button twice, and what happens is, he said, now look at these dolls. You know what are exactly they are going to do? So these dolls, they enter into the body of a person. The demonstration starts on the screen, and that man, engulfs these dolls. These dolls go to every part of the body which is screened out there, and they rectify the cancer, they rectify the cataract, they rectify even the purify the blood and all these things. And he says that, see, this is the beauty of this particular android. So then he says, what is therefore the difference between android and the robot? Then he explains him that what is the difference and how valuable this is. Then he says, okay, what is the applicability of these androids? Then this Eli says that 90% of the operations in Gleason, they are being carried out with these dolls only, and therefore we are used to it. And see, this can be a good antique piece, a very high technology to your Veda Sangrahalaya, and that will this. And therefore this Sharangadhar gets stunned, and he says that, okay, okay, if you are going to give me this in return of that, then definitely I shall give. And then he actually asks his curator that, please bring that box number 15 in room number 7. And he brings it. There is a hook, like the suture needle, and that is the second needle. And then this he asks him this, what you can say, Sharangadhar, he asks him that how did you get the first one? A very interesting question. How did you get the first suture? Then he said, I went 500 BC back. Okay, I depicted the entire scene when the man with the cut nose appearing with Sushruta and asking to fix the nose. And I was one of the two helpers in this operation, and I gave the stitches, and after the stitches I kept one with me and I brought one. So he really goes mad, and he said that this man is something very interesting. And ultimately he gives him the that box. In return, he takes that particular the suture needle, and then he says, bye bye, bye bye. Now hardly 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 10 seconds, and he totally dissolves and disappears. and entire India, maybe entire people on this planet, they are witnessing this very interesting thing. So instead of, that man Himanshu, interviewing Sharangadhar, in fact, Sharangadhar, introduced the Eli. And that is the whole story that goes like that. So it is a Ved. So, now because I knew all these interesting things, regarding the operation of Sushruta, I just put this story into the science fiction, and people really appreciated it. It appeared in two, three magazines also, and so that is how is my way of finding the what you can say, the seeds for the science fiction.
Your story again reminds me of my own story.
Okay.
I wrote a story in which a doctor does research and creates a nanorobo, a self-perpetuating nanorobo. So
Mm-hmm.
he injects it into a man's body so
Correct.
that this nanorobo goes into every parts of the body, repairs it, and it takes place of the white blood corpuscles of a human being. So that they are the barriers of the body now. So the entire body is now controlled by these nanorobos,
Honorable.
so that the person will not get any disease
Mm-hmm.
because they are the barriers. They self-perpetuate. They derive oxygen from themselves, create it from the body. So this man who has created it will be living for so many years. He will not die at all.
Ah, 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 ah. Acha, acha, acha.
Then after some time, he gets a doubt whether he is a human or a robot because everything inside him is robot now. They are self-perpetuating and they create themselves and they destroy anything extra. So
Yeah.
that entire body is taken by nanorobots.
Okay,
So
okay.
now is he a man or a robot?
Huh, huh,
That is
huh.
the question I ended the story with.
Okay.
So
And
when you said, and I think we science fiction writers somewhere or the other think in
yeah,
a similar way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Really,
And
really.
the next story.
There are many stories. The one story, is based, and that is Bandha. Bandha is that story. Now, what I have tried to show is, there is a stubborn lady. She is very strong and she doesn't want to marry. She hates the human being. But what happens is, she is a scientist. That is the main point. What happens is, while she is in DRDO, the side the three the military, the air force, and all these people, they ultimately make a plan of how the Aksai chain can be acquired. Now, Aksai chain is a dream for India. POK can be fulfilled, but Aksai is very difficult.
Very good.
So she says that, see, I am a DNA recombinant technologist, and my plan is to go for a biological warfare, and there the science comes in. So, but these people, they say that, see, in biological warfare, that there are many international laws, and if we are trapped in that, it will be very difficult for us to get out of it. She says that no, I have created a different story and I have created a different technology also. So they say, what is the technology? So she says that instead of, actually dispersing the microorganisms which are highly toxic, we shall make the hydrogen sulfide out of it. The hydrogen sulfide generating organisms are also there. They are anaerobic organisms, and that is how we shall prepare the bombs of the hydrogen sulfide, and we shall actually do the things. Then people say that, okay, what is your plan? But this is just an overall picture that you are telling us. Then she said that exactly after 15 days we are going to meet, and I will give you that particular map. So after 15 days they meet, and she presents only one slide, and the people, all these military and air force people, they said, only one slide means what exactly you want to tell out of it? She says that our entire, the team will be working in 7 compartments on this particular kind of a lorry. It's a big long lorry, and there are 7 laboratories on that. And One by one, the things go ahead, and in the seventh compartment, actually, this hydrogen sulfide is pumped into the cylinders, and then there are two big cylinders through which they are thrown, and all that. She explains all this, and they are stunned. They said that very interestingly, but why you are interested in hydrogen sulfide only? So she says that organisms, when they are dispersed, they usually don't survive because of high temperature and all that. And therefore, the death rate in that particular warfare is very less. If we want 100%, these particular gas molecules will actually, make them fainted out. They will may not kill, few may be killed, but most of them they will be. And whenever they faint out, we immediately, carry them, and we will just, take over this entire Aksai. So ultimately, she makes a plan. While all these things are going on, she also somehow she falls in love with a doctor, and a doctor also starts coming to her and all that. But ultimately, as I told you, she's a very stubborn lady, and therefore when the point comes, she actually says no to him, and ultimately that marriage could not take place. So this is a background, and this doctor then goes ahead, he becomes MS and all that, he retires also, and then he settles in Gangotri very long, because he wants to serve the people. Now here, on the other hand, the that entire, what you can say, the lorry is prepared. The scientists work on that in Nubra Valley. Okay, Nubra Valley, which then they cross it, and they prepare roads and all that. Ultimately, this mission becomes successful. The mission becomes successful. Aksai Chin is taken up by India, but ultimately she is not happy, maybe in her personal life. And she says that, she was given the awards, the Padma Shri, she became the director of DRDO also. But she says that, see, I don't have any purpose to stay in my life, and I want to suicide. And therefore, after the whole thing happened, means now she is retired. At the same time, that doctor is also, he also retires, and now she decides to suicide. Now she said how to suicide. So she starts her yatra to Gangotri. And she says that while I shall be coming from Gangotri, I shall jump in a valley and finish it off, because I don't want to, live no anymore. So she goes there. What happens very interestingly, the accident takes place. But as the accident takes place, she doesn't jump, but the accident takes place, and ultimately her, the window, emergency window, she is sitting near emergency window. She is thrown after out of this emergency window and falls on a tree. But the entire, the bus, it goes into the valley. Everybody dies, and she remains alive. And she was taken to a hospital, Negi hospital. Now see, this Negi is that Negi, okay. And she comes here, and ultimately she was admitted. But no sooner she opens her eyes, she says that, am I in heaven? And is that heaven so beautiful? Because I find the things, like that. And ultimately the Negi and she, they comes in contact. She stays there also, and by the time, within these 10 to 15 days, she discovers that this is not Mr. Negi, this is Mr. Ninave, because Ninave changes his name and becomes Negi here. And he is that particular man who wanted to marry me. But at the same time, what happens, she gives her, what you can say, the kavita bolte na, the poems. She makes poems. So she gives him her poems, and Negi reads it. But then he clicks, okay, these are the poems which I have read somewhere, and this handwriting is also very similar. And that is how he knows her and she knows him, but they don't tell each other. And that is how ultimately they decide to expose our own identities. And she says that, yes, hello, Mr. Ninave. And he says that, hello, Mr. Vibhavari. So their original names, and they come together. So this is therefore is a story which is rather a flashback kind of a story. Now, when I tell you, it will not be that interesting, but when you read it, the flashbacks are interestingly jailed and manipulated. So this is therefore is a kind of a thing that I have made. This is how I actually go for different seeds for the things.
And so far, how many science fiction stories have you written?
I have written one means 32.
Mhm.
32. This is the book that I am going to send you. That is DNA चा Akrosh. Okay.
Okay.
This is very interesting. All these stories regarding DNA, they are there. So Mangal Khuzbuzla is my first anthology, and there the story is very interesting. Man has gone to Mars. He has started excavating on Mars, and in one of the excavations, they found that maybe 150 meters down, they find some kind of a village structure.
Mm.
And in one of the rooms, they start excavating the things. They found some paintings on the wall and so on and so forth. And very fortunately, I would say, or coincidentally, they found what you can say the human human brain in a very, very bad shape, hardly maybe some 40% brain is there, but it is a yellowish kind of a muscular, kind of a material that they actually receive it. So they are thrilled, that how can we get it like this on Mars? Means there were people here. Now he come, they bring it on the camp, and there is a Vikramshila University that time in Leh, and that is basically found or established for doing all these kinds of works. That is the archaeological survey work, including the Mars one. So he gets a message that this is what we have found. Ultimately, the whole, earth, all scientists on this planet, they're thrilled. And ultimately, the people in this particular kind of scientific technologies, they were immediately called. So the people say, Mr. Robert Koch, he says that you better bring that brain on the planet, on our planet. So there is a, what you can say, the elemental technology, because of which they can reach from Mars to Earth within few minutes, and that is how that is known as Mulakana. Mulakana means basic,
Basic element.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So they come, they bring the brain here, and that brain is now very, very thoroughly, okay, checked. Very interestingly, they find that the most of the DNA map or the DNA link is matching with the Namibian people on this planet. And they say that now we must do the organ cloning. And through organ cloning, we shall now convert this half a brain into a full brain. Okay? By actually connecting the missing links of genes. And all those missing links we shall take from the Namibian brain. So they went to Namibia. Now, Namibia is a very backward country, but ultimately that becomes very sensational. And the president of Namibia says that, okay, there was a Hamba people, and these Hamba people, they didn't have any language as such. They were only colloquial, means, did speaking language. And maybe, those are the people with whom this DNA will match. Ultimately, these are some people lying in the jungles, deep jungles. So these Hamba people, they are actually called, they tested, everything done. They were mapped for DNA, and all those missing links were fulfilled. And then that DNA was given the technological DNA recombinant technology or the cloning technological order, that now you make a brain out of it. This is possible. Mendy could be prepared, Dolly could be prepared. So that is actually the animal cloning. This is the organ cloning. So through organ cloning technique, they create a brain. Now the question is, Mr. Purandare is expert in the brain transplant, And Mr. Robert Koch is expert in these kinds of what I would say, the synthetic biology, very interesting. And what they come together and they call the experts throughout the world, and they said that if this brain starts speaking, okay, then we can get lot of things from Mars, and you really don't have to excavate on Mars much. And therefore they actually decide after few months that the excavation from Mars should be stopped, because we are trying to make this brain speak. Now, this large language model, you must have heard about it nowadays. So they went beyond that. And this Robert Koch was busy with actually, creating these connections, electronic connections, electrical connections. And this Dr. Purandare was very expert, he was expert in making all the points in that particular brain, activating them and, making them live. So ultimately, after maybe 1 year or so, they create the different softwares and which can be connected with that brain. And ultimately, they put on the button. And what happens is there is big noise coming out, big noise coming out. But wait for a few hours. And ultimately, the graph starts coming out. Now, the question was actually converting the graphical language into the words. And these words may be from the Namibian Himba people language. And therefore, they were trying to connect it like that. But ultimately, they could not. But they found a pattern. And that pattern was very important. So that pattern was converted into the English language. And they found that there are 70 letters, and in these 70 letters he is trying to tell somebody that don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me. That is the only sentence that he is repeating again and again. So don't kill me means, what is the problem? This starts, imagining that this fellow must be, punished. And probably he is afraid, and somebody is, maybe ritually, maybe he's, some spirit or whatever. And but something has happened, and immediately now, because he has been, remembering the past, he is, talking about all this. So they now wait. They said that, see, it is not better to, extend more and more to this brain, because the brain is now started remembering something. And that is how it starts. And after these 70 words, then actually this Robert Koch takes a big, interview, as we are interviewing each other, and he asks questions. He starts answering the questions. Of course, it takes time to convert it, but they get a big data. And they say that, yeah, something great has happened. And what he actually says is, that time on Earth, there was a Neanderthal man. Neanderthal man was on that, at that particular time, was existing on this planet. There was Hima Yuga was going on, Ice Age was going on, and we already had problems in Mars, and there was totally, the dictatorialship, and they went on, killing the people. And ultimately they said, we want a safe place. But they were very, ahead of the rocketry science and all that. So 25 people that time, he says that maybe around 25 people, maybe the bureaucrats, they actually had a plan to come to Earth. And I was telling them that don't go to Earth, because Earth is not cozy till, and therefore you will be landing up in a problem. But they didn't hear me. They killed me. Later on, probably they must have come. They must have come on this planet. But when they came on the planet, they were highly evolved. Martians were highly evolved at time. And there was a Neanderthal man who was trying and fighting for his existence in the jungles. So probably they must have come together, compromise themselves, and they must have decided that, okay, with my technology, I will give you the food, and with your technology, you give us whatever. And that is how the symbiotic activity must have been resulted into their, their marital, the existing relationships. And ultimately, this entire thing must have happened in this Namibia or maybe the African region. And therefore, this particular race still not known to the human beings on planet, especially Earth. But this kind of a very interesting kind of a race must be there on this planet that time. And therefore, the Mars actually, his name is Mars. So Mars tells them that you better start the excavation in Namibia or that particular desert, the skeleton island of Namibia. And therefore, this particular news is a news like anything. And they started thinking, yes, yes, we must be having that species, which is a combination of Mars and the Neanderthal. And that is how they started excavation. Well, it's a big thing. Bangari is a lady scientist who takes the lead, and she takes the whole team there. And now this is a big, actually desert. So where to exactly see it? But they knew how to identify. Ultimately, they fixed the two spots. One is the skeletal island, and other was the Apollo caves. And ultimately, in Apollo caves, they are tired now. After three months, they said, see, let's wind up the things because we are not getting anything. And the what you can say, the desert winds, the desert storm comes, all of a sudden. That storm is so heavy that it actually takes the hillocks from one place to other place. This is a big kind of a storm. And because of the storm, what happens is whatever is hidden behind these hillocks, it gets exposed. So most of the excavation is done by the nature itself. And on the other side is looked after by the another people. They are also tired, but ultimately because of this they said, yes, now we have a chance. And then they start again doing excavation, and they find that there is a calcareous material, a very big material, and a ball of this calcareous material, a big stone, they could locate in that. Ultimately they said something is there in thing, and they bring it to the laboratory. They actually cut it, and they find it except the left lower leg, everything is intact. And that particular the skeleton was then, it is known as a taphonomy. The analysis that they did. So they analyzed it, and they found that yes, there is a mixture, it is an hybrid, it is not purely the Indian race. And that is how the Homo martians is a new species which is discovered. And now is a time when there was a conference, a big conference, people throughout the world they attended. And you know who is the president of that conference? The small brain. The small brain is now totally activated, and that small brain actually speaks with with these people, because now the technology also they have developed. No sooner he speaks, converting into the language, and ultimately that conference ends and Homo Martians are discovered. So this is how I have tried to depict in this Mangal Kuzbuzla. It is, the name is Mangal Kuzbuzla, means the hissing of uh,
Mars.
Mars, and he is talking with you. So like that, there are three stories in this, but this was quite interesting. Then the second is DNA. So Akrosh is another, and the third is the Bijankur. Bijankur is also one of the very interesting anthology, and the recent one is Anubandha. Anubandha is my anthology where very interesting story. Should I continue because I
Please.
don't? Um,
Sure,
uh,
sure. I'm
yeah,
just thinking while you are talking, basically, because you are producing such wonderful stories. I
yeah,
think they should get the pan Indian connection. Like people in every language should be able to read them,
yeah.
because you are clubbing so many different scientific science branches of science,
Branches, yeah.
and then creating a story which is quite interesting and thought provoking.
The story in this Anubandha is based on तो मी नव्हेच. So that means he is not me. That is how he's confused. That man is confused. How he is confused? He is a man of history, a very senior fellow. And what happens, on the eve of 100 years of our independence, that means 2047, he is asked, that Dr. the great man, Dr. Mishra, his name is, so he is honored, and people say, sir, we are now, your special lecture is being arranged in this auditorium. Now, what happens is, when he starts talking, he talks so negative, and this is mind blowing. This is a blow to the listeners. They say that is great, man. So, what is negativity in his talk? That he says that, see, India didn't do anything in this 100 years. We have lost these 100 years like that. We don't have any contribution. Our scientists did nothing. This, that. Their stories were quite worth reading. What exactly he talks. And he actually, says that India is a foolish country. Now, what happens, the people are annoyed and they say, क्या हो गया मिश्रा जी को ऐसे क्या कर रहे हैं? So immediately somebody phones to the police, and police comes there. They also listen to this man, and he started abusing the scientists. Now, what is this, ISRO? What is this? What is that? They have never gone to moon, this and that. So ultimately, these policemen, they arrest him. Now, there are students, history students, the students of this great man. They start protecting him and saying, sir, our professor is not so bad. Don't take him and put behind bars. Something must have happened because of his age and all that, whatever. But ultimately, he gets he is there is a he gets a bell, and he comes home. So problem is, now he's one of the favorite students comes home, and he says, sir, what is the problem with you? Now you are at the age of 80s. We hear you so well, but now you spoke very differently. But one very interesting change that students observed when he went to his home, and that was, at this age, there was a laptop in front of him, and there was a very special kind of a golden spec that he was wearing. And he suspects, that student asks him, Sir, your eyes were not that sharp, and you were annoyed with these technologies and everything. You are a man who used to refer the books. So how come it happened? So he said, no, no, no. See, there was a great man who offered me this laptop and who gave me this particular golden kind of a spec. And there, where exactly he doubts that something has gone wrong, and therefore he starts the his work of finding out who is the man behind it, what must have happened, and therefore he actually takes help of the police. And he said that, yes, Mr. Suryavanshi, a police officer, that you have to keep it secret. We want to find out what is all going on wrong. Because he starts talking with his wife also very negatively. So his wife is also annoyed. And he says her wife to get out of his house, and this is all nonsense. Therefore, they now start doing it. So they go to a doctor, a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist says that, see, there is something wrong. His brain is being manipulated by somebody. And this is not possible by the chips. And these chips are operated and put into the brain. Okay. So when you put it into the brain, your brain starts thinking accordingly. And therefore, something must have happened like that. But then the student said, ki, no, there was no any operation that he has undergone. So no chip is there inside. So what must have happened? So he said that you better go to so and so doctor in CCMB Hyderabad, Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology. So he said, okay, he takes the appointment. After that, he calls him at late night, 10 o'clock, because he said, I want to talk you secret. So 10 o'clock they meet, Mr. Suryavanshi and the student, and this doctor. They discuss about it, and he says that there is a new technology where you have not to put the chip inside, but from outside also they can do this. How did they do it? So the student said that, sir, I don't know, but maybe there is something in this spec. So doctor says that, okay, can you manage the spec and bring it to me, because otherwise we can't do it and investigate, because we will have to give it to the experts of artificial intelligence people and all that. So he plays a trick. He goes to Professor Mishra, and Mishra welcomes him and all that. So this student says, "Ki, sir, this your spec looks beautiful." So Mishra says, "You came to me and he offered me the laptop and he offered me this."
Uh,
Yes.
1 minute. Actually, internet connection is fluctuating.
Okay.
So I heard till your specs are beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. I can't hear you.
1 minute, 1 minute.
Oh, yeah.
Now I think you are able to hear me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I heard it was coming correctly till you said the specs are beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. He said,
Afterwards, the connection was disrupted. So you may have to continue from the specs are
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. So
Please continue.
he says, your specs are so beautiful, sir. Can I try? And he tries, he pretends that, okay, okay, beautiful, sir, how clear I see, and all that. And then he, during discussion, he asks him, "Ki, sir, from where did you get it?" And then he tells him that, yeah, there were people who came to me and they offered me this spec, and they said that on this spec we are offering you a laptop also free because you are a great scientist, a historian, and this and that. So I got it. So the student, asks him, from where did you get it? Can you give me the address? So he, yeah, yeah, yeah. Why don't you take the address? It is in Delhi and this and that in so and so bazaar. So he takes the address, goes to that man, and ultimately tries to find out what happens. When he discusses about this spec which was given to Mishra, he immediately got clicked, and he said that, okay, 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 yeah, 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 we gave a spec to Mishra ji. Would you like to have another spec? See, he is on the mission only to spoil and to control the brains. So he said, yeah, 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 I'm also interested because there are fantastic results. So he said, okay, we can, you can book, come on. So उसका ये नंबर विंबर वगैरह लेते हैं, पूरा नाटक करते हो और बोलते कि you give me the address and I will send it to you. And there is a scheme and we're giving one laptop free. So he says, oh, okay, fine, fine. I would be happy. So he receives that parcel. He takes that parcel and again meets this CCMB doctor. And there, these three people are sitting now after maybe 2 or 3 months. And the doctor calls a lady and she said, Mona, please come inside. So, this student says, and this Suryamushi also says, sir, it is a secret, don't call anybody because otherwise it will be exposed. The doctor says, no, 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 she is our lady and she is expert in this and she will find out what exactly has happened. So, they discuss, they see the spec from very minutely, they observe it, and they ask this particular student, that what speciality you found in Mishraji while, actually observing under with the laptop or while reading on the laptop. So he says, yes, sir, I could find one very interesting thing. And that is, he always used to, move this like this, and always do some things and play with the spec. And that is how he used to read. And there exactly is the thing. So what happens, that there were the sensors here on these spec. And these sensors, they used to touch the brain center here, and the pallets, pallets we see here. So the pallets and these sensors, when they used to press each other, the brain used to be manipulated accordingly. You were surfing on the laptop, so you are surfing on the laptop only what the brain was telling you. And therefore, he was surfing only the negative things. And he was trying to find out how the Indian, all these, the Swatantra Veer and all these people who devoted for the nation, they were wrong, how they were the slaves of the Britishers and all that. And that is how his entire story goes negativity. Now what happens is, they find out the reason. Now this policeman and this student, they again go to that particular spectacle shop, and they try to find out what exactly is happening here. And they say, ki, yes, who is your boss ultimately? So what happens, that man, he speaks with somebody. He says that, okay, okay, I will call my boss. And therefore he speaks in Arabic language. And they say some connection is there with Arabian people or some Muslim community, and they are doing this conspiracy. And he immediately says, yeah, वो हमारा आदमी जो है ना चाचा वो आ रहा है. So after some time, that fellow comes and he says, yes, how did you feel our specs and all that? So he says, yeah, fantastic. It is very nice. It is very nice. Then he says, so from where you make all these spectacles? Because so beautiful spectacles these are. Then he starts narrating a few interesting secrets because he didn't know that they are the people of from police. And he said that, yeah, we have a very, very big kind of a factory making lenses here, there, and all that. Vagera, vagera. And then they get this information, then goes to the, the CID people. Then the entire group goes to Mr. Mishra's house. तो मिश्रा बोलता है कि अरे आज इतने सारे लोग मेरे घर आए हैं. हाँ, चलो 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 आज जरा अच्छा चाय कॉफी और कुछ खाने के लिए बनाओ. दैट इज हाउ ही ऑर्डर्स टू हिज वाइफ. तो द डॉक्टर इज वेरी calm and quiet. He doesn't speak anything much. And that is how the story starts with the Suryavanshi. The Suryavanshi starts saying, sir, do you know that your brain is hiked? Your brain is manipulated. So he says that no, 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 no. I am such an intelligent person. Nobody can hike my brain. Impossible, impossible. So he is just not ready to listen. Then the students also tries to tell him. Then his wife also tries to tell him. Everybody tries to tell him. The Mona also tries to tell him, but he doesn't listen. And he said that no, impossible. This is my thought. I am doing my research. I am, referring the things, and therefore the things are like this. Ultimately, the doctor comes and he speaks, and he says that in anybody's life, nothing is free. If you get something free, you better doubt it. And sir, you are a great man. You are just like my father. So, will you please listen to me that you are being manipulated? So when he talks with some serious, tone and all that, he says that, Acha, it is because of that it was free of cost. So he said, who will give you free of cost a golden speck? It is impossible. And therefore, we have investigated. These are our results. And sir, you are one of the prestigious scientist, historian. And will you please now show your spec? So he gives his spec. Mona observes it, declares it, confirms it that this is a conspiracy of, instead of implanting the the chip, it was the outer, the friction that was actually manipulating the brain. And then ultimately he accepts it, and it proved to be a great conspiracy, international conspiracy. So while they are talking and discussing, immediately the CID team comes in, and they bring a message that yes, sir, we got the racket. and all these people are behind the bars. So that is how ultimately the story ends. So this is how to me navej. So I am not that.
I'm not. And
Like,
what is the response of the readers for these stories?
sir, readers' response is more than 5.5 uh, lakh.
Mhm.
Sorry, for 5,500 people viewing it. Because I tell you one interesting thing. What I have done, I have actually hired an agency where these the stories are being read. Okay, that man is from a drama. Okay, Mr. Reggae.
Mhm.
He very beautifully reads the story, and therefore that is katha kathan bolte na usko katha
Mhm.
kathan. So he dramatizes the whole situation without any music. He simply talks. And
Totally his dialogue delivery modulation.
yeah, modulation in voice and all that. So when it actually he puts it on his YouTube channel, I get a result.
Mm.
That how many people are seeing. So fantastic views, and people are giving very positive remarks. They always say कि सर ये कहाँ से आता है आपके ब्रेन में. और दूसरा एक उनका जो कहना है कि सर आप इतने बारीकी से लिखते हो कि ऐसे लगता है कि ये बिल्कुल हो रहा है मेरे सामने, ये एक्चुअली हो रहा है. So I said that is the
Style of
compliment.
writing.
Yeah.
And how did you get into science fiction? Like, did you read any masters, English novels, English
uh,
writers?
I am a English novel reader.
Mhm.
Okay, then I also read these anthologies by Naralekar, by Balfonke, and a few Marathi science fiction writers. Basically, what I do is whenever I go in a odd kind of situations, I actually take that situation so seriously and write that situation. I know that situation doesn't have any meaning today. Okay, but that situation can be put and inserted into maybe the incidents happening in a hospital. Okay, the incidents happening on a platform, on an airport. So what happens, these incidences basically give you the ideas, and that is how. And basically, being an adventurist, I tell you, I have faced so many odd situations that if you hear my story, the name is the canon. Canon is the name of my story. Uh,
Canons, English canon.
the Grand Canyons,
Okay, canyon.
Canyon. So Canyon is my story, which ends like a very horrifying incidents. And see, the people forget about the science, but they are delighted with the narration of a horrifying incidents that occurred there. So now what is that? That is somewhere I have seen, I have heard while during our expeditions. How the people are trapped, what exactly they think, what exactly they try for saving their soul. Okay, so they're very interesting stories. So if you are habituated to see such stories, such pictures, you don't put a picture as it is, but you take that bit and link it with your own story, and that becomes quite mind blowing. So that is how basically I do.
And is there a good readership for science fiction stories in Marathi?
It's a very good, very good. We have the groups,
Mhm.
WhatsApp groups, and we go on exchanging. The International Science Fiction Association is also there. So we are also on the group. Arvind Mishra ji is there, Dr. Narahari is there. So it's very interesting thing that we have the academicians, English literature academicians. Now they are basically वो क्या करते हो समीक्षा करते हैं, because they have read a lot. We write a lot. That is a difference.
And like,
And
do you feel this language is a barrier? For example, I do not know Marathi. but I would like to know science fiction stories written by in Marathi.
Yeah.
So, is the language inhibiting us from reaching wider readers?
Language is a barrier, and this has been a subject of discussion every time in between ourselves also. Why I tell you, uh, translator is there, but the translator should be expert in both the languages,
Yes,
because you are expressing your emotions, and these emotions must be depicted properly. And therefore, if there is somebody who knows Hindi and Marathi, or who is good in English as well as in Marathi, now what we have tried, as I told you in DNA Akrosh, is, as I told you and showed you, in that I have tried to summarize the whole story in 1.5 or 2 pages
mm,
before you go to actual Marathi story. And this really helped fantastically. And our Sri Narahari, who is a Telugu person, he also got the germ, he got the germ, what exactly Garge wants to tell. And he said that something very interesting that we couldn't imagine. Now, of course, knowing that gist is not even one fourth. But
yes.
when
It is
uh,
just like tasting.
testing, it is just like testing or knowing, okay, what he wants to say. But translators are not available now. The other try that we this association did was the multilingual kind of a magazine they brought out. And but again, the problem was in that magazine, different language stories were there. Now when that comes to me, I read my story only,
That's
or
it.
authority only, so that again became a problem. But there they gave again the gist of every story in English beforehand. So that is how they are trying, but still I tell you, we don't have any solution.
Just
How,
is like a trailer.
yeah, it's a trailer.
Actual picture अभी बहुत बाकी है.
Picture बहुत बाकी है. And Hindi Marathi is that way understandable. Means
Yes,
at least we Marathi people can understand Hindi very well. Absolutely no problem. But they have a problem of Marathi many a times, and therefore our seminars also. I tell you, it becomes so awkward that in an international seminar, when the question of the अभी चलो मराठी लिटरेचर का शुरू हो गया सेशन. अब मराठी से शुरू हो गया तो बाकी सब उठ के निकल जाते हैं.
yes,
Nobody sits there, and therefore that internationality doesn't carry any meaning.
yes. Even I feel the same thing as a Telugu writer. Like
Ah,
whatever I write, whatever experiments I make, may
yeah,
not reach the wider readers. It is
right.
confined only to Telugu readers.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
as a science fiction writer, can't
yeah,
we imagine a place where language immediately as it is typed is translated into the language that we want?
yeah. No,
Did you write any such stories?
yeah, that is not possible because of large language model.
Hmm.
Uh, Whatever I am talking at present can be translated in Telugu also. And
Yes,
should be.
it should be.
And that is the only way of faster way of communicating in different languages. But at present, at least we don't have that facility, and that's a big barrier. I always, because when we write, we find what a fantastic idea, but that fantastic idea is not reaching. So in
Yes,
most of our seminars, now I have to narrate. Just now I am narrating. Like that I have to narrate my stories in English.
yes. You will be giving the essence, but the main thing is missing.
So
The
मजा
style of writing is missing.
it doesn't carry any meaning. Okay, they know what is the gist of it, but ultimately present कैसे किया है. Basically the dialogues,
Yes,
the dialogues are so interesting. ए, कहाँ कहाँ एस्टोनिश हो जाते हैं, कहीं कहीं क्वेश्चन मार्क आ जाता है, कहीं कहीं एकदम से. तो these are the feelings that can only take place through reading and knowing the language.
and you are a environmentalist too.
I am
Did you
environment.
write any clifey stories like climatic science fiction?
Oh, beautiful question, sir. Within 1 month's time, or maybe 15 days' time, my Cli-Fi novel is coming out.
Oh, what is it about? Like, how did you? What is the name of it?
The name of that is Bhuvaneshwari Sa Kallol.
Oh,
Bhuvaneshwari means earth.
Earth Kallolam. Like
And
Kallol means chaotic situation.
it is a chaotic situation.
mm,
And it is a story of four generations.
mm.
And during these four generations, how the people are fighting out for continuing their race. There's a big problem that I have depicted there. They can't continue their race, everybody becomes sterile.
That is what is happening around now, basically.
Happening around. And like that, I have taken many problems in that regarding environment. Say there is another problem, and that is the axis of the earth is reversing.
Mm.
Okay, that happens maybe in 40,000 years, once in a 40,000 years. That's a very interesting event, and if that takes place, many things happen very bad. So, how that climatologist, it's a story of one climatologist and one exhibitionist
Mm.
lady. She is expert in making exhibitions based on environment. Okay. And they come together, but ultimately they divorce. They have a girl, means a lot of efforts are to be taken to have the girl, but ultimately the girl is not looked after properly, so she goes to the wrong way. And she was taken to America through the other country nearby America. You know how the people enter in America, Mexico.
Illegal immigration.
Illegal immigration, and there she gave a child from unknown husband. And somehow her father knows that she is there in Houston, and he has to go there for some conference. And that is known as excursion, changing the axis, excursion. So he was there to address the conference, but then he said, "Let me visit my daughter also." He get the address and all that. He reaches the daughter. She is in a very, very, very poor state of affairs, very poor, means she somehow manages. And then he looks at one small boy, and who is a sort of an autic, okay, afraid, always afraid. And then somehow but she's annoyed with her father because her father didn't look after, and her mother left. So she's very annoyed, with her father. And then but their dialogues are so beautifully made, sir, in this novel, that what they will talk, when they meet like this. And ultimately there is a message that a huge surge is going to come, means weather, the climate, this thing. And we have to move. And they're used to all this, running here and there when these kinds of things, the storms, they come. Ultimately, where to go, how to go, they run, they try, and ultimately they are trapped. They are trapped. But this man is a scientist and a very adventurist, this man. And he ultimately takes that boy on his shoulder, and takes his daughter. Ultimately they make a way. And how they make a way is a very horrifying story, which again I have taken from one interesting thing. It's very interesting. So somehow they survive, and they decide to come out of that house, because now everything is calm and quiet. But when they come out, the Arushi is a
Mm.
daughter. This Arushi is fed up with her son, because the son has a problem. And she starts thinking that if my father has come, and if that my son likes him, I have to leave them alone, and I will run out. Okay, escape from here. So this is very interesting. Now for this also, how these thoughts come, I have narrated very beautifully in the novel. And ultimately they come to a camp, and in that camp she says that, okay, I will just come, I am going there to fetch the water, drinking water. And here this small boy looks at a gun of a army man, and he is interested. "Ki, what is this, grandfather?" So grandfather starts explaining him and all that. So in this incident she escapes and she is lost. She's lost, nobody knows. But he says that she is not lost, she will come a day. Now this boy grows. He brings him in India. And then the whole story is quite interesting. Ultimately, that Arushi now is a very, he is on the last verge of her life. She comes in India and she phones this boy known as Kabir. She phones Mr. Kabir through her father. Father is still in good favor of her. So father connects her to Kabir, and but Kabir is now annoyed. He doesn't want to see the face of this lady, his mother, because she has really acted very badly. And therefore, and now at this point of time, the Kabir has become a great surgeon. Okay, and he says that Mama, I am not interested and I don't have time. And then the dialogues between that Mama and this Kabir, they are so sensitive. And ultimately Kabir says that okay, if you wish, I will come sometime. So he comes. He ultimately enters a room. And what happens, when he was a child, Arushi always have, given whatever he wanted. ये खिलौना है, ये है, वो है. तो उसको एक डॉक्टर की जो डॉल होती है, वो डॉक्टर की डॉल बहुत पसंद थी जब छोटा था. तो ये आरुषि बेचारी थकी हुई, बूढ़ी हुई, वो बोलती कि कबीर, विल यू प्लीज टेक आउट वन बैग फ्रॉम दैट कबर्ड. तो ही सेज कि चलो ठीक है, वो कबर्ड पे जाता है, ही ब्रिंग्स द बैग एंड गिव्स हर. एंड देन शी टेक्स आउट द डॉल, and the doll, miraculously changes his mood, because he remembers his very old days in Mexico. And he said, Mama, from where you brought? She said that this is the only thing that I have preserved. And I wanted to give it, and that is why I have called you. Otherwise, I know you are totally annoyed with me, and I don't deserve even for that. And then the whole scene changes. Ultimately, he takes that doll and jubilantly he goes out of that hospital and joins. But ultimately after that she dies. But when she's on the verge of dying, he again visits that hospital, and she's just lying, taking her last breath. But he thinks that she is there and she is listening to me. Now he is in full mood, but the mother is not in the mood. She is on the verge of death. And he starts narrating the whole story. Mama, what happened? Mama, we went there. Mama, we came here. How we went to India, then how I got admitted in medical, what I did, what I that. I have actually showed him as a head transplant surgeon. How I did my first surgery in India, and how I'm a famous doctor. My mom, you should be proud of me. You should be proud of me. And he looks and he sees that she is no more. So when he is in the mood, she is lost. Okay, when she was in the mood, he was not ready to listen to her. And ultimately, she dies. And then the whole story goes ahead, and he gets a big global prize. I have narrated as just like a Nobel in 2050s and 60s. Global prize. Global was another fellow in the name of whom the Global prize was given, and that Global prize was given to him. Means to this Kabir. And in that function, her daughter comes. Sorry, her grandma is still alive, so she comes, and she's the only survivor. His grandpa dies in between, and that is how the whole story goes. And ultimately, he declares that whatever amount I'm going to get as this thing, a prize of a global prize, I am donating it to Dr. Saurabh, who was the friend of his grandpa, okay, Nishad, and for stopping the excursion phenomena, for this change in the poles, because that is the only danger that I find. And if that is not stopped, there is no meaning to what we all are going to do. And he declares it. and people clap, they are crying, and ultimately it ends. So that is Bhuvaneshwari is a color, and that is going to come very soon. I will send you that Kadambari also. It's a novel. It's the first novel. The second novel is Oxygen. The third novel is Mandakini.
Mm.
Mandakini.
All science fiction.
Yeah, all science fiction. All
Mm.
science fiction.
But
This option is so interesting.
how are the sales of books? How is the publishing in Marathi?
Yeah, there are people who are they publish it, but they don't have time sense. Okay, it should be in time,
Mm.
take time. Therefore, I have one or two publishers. What I do is, I give them the ready-made pen drive. Okay,
Mm.
I get it done, paging and this and that and everything. And I said, you just print it. Okay, time saving, huh? Now
Mm.
for printing, it doesn't take much time. ये पेज मेकिंग में ज्यादा टाइम लगता है ना एंड देयरफॉर ही टेक्स सर 1 year 1.5 year and all nonsense. So I now I go to a page maker. He is there. He does it for me within maybe 10 to 15 days, and then I get it printed from a very good printer, of course. And that is how all these novels are now coming one after the other.
But what about marketing?
Marketing, it is all on Amazon.
Mm.
Now, DNA's Akrosh, this I showed you, is available on Amazon.
Mm.
Yeah, it is available on Amazon. And of course, nowadays, you give them the link and people do it. But at least 50 books I have to donate to the good readers. Okay. So that they read it, they analyze it, they talk good about it, and then they spread it. So that is how. So there is one that is Planet of the Nudes. Is
Planet
also
of the Nudes.
Planet of the Nudes.
Nudes Digambar.
Ah, yeah, Digambar. The whole planet is on the of the nudes because they have lost their fertility
Mm.
and they don't feel like anything, and therefore to fertilize their galaxy, okay, their planet, to fertilize their planet, they pick up one couple, okay, from the
Earth.
earth,
Mm.
from earth, and they, because they survey and they find that earth is a planet where there is a overpopulation. And there's no problem, and these are the people who can give the source of all this, and that is how they pick up and how they take it off to their planet. And then the whole very interesting story it is.
It is interesting.
Yeah, Planet of the Nudes.
Mm.
So Planet of the Nudes, Oxygen, and Mandakini, and Bhuvaneshwarisa Kallur.
Colour.
So these are the four novels. They are in line now,
Mm.
of which one would be coming very soon. And this is cli-fi. As I told you, the Bhuvaneshwarisa Kallur is a cli-fi,
Sci-fi. Yes. Mm.
climate fiction.
And
And
have you written anything about time travel,
uh,
extraterrestrial travel?
yeah, yeah, time travel actually comes in this Planet of the Nudes.
Yeah.
Okay, I have actually figuratively presented how these molecules, they make this particular travel faster. I
Mm.
have created my model, picturize that model in that novel. Okay.
Like a man is broken down into molecules and thrown
Uh,
into space.
no, not like that. The way the diagram,
Mhm.
how the message goes
Mm.
from the chip, and how these basic these mulakan, or you can say the things, they actually take the message. How many minutes are required from here to there? How many stations are there? And how ultimately it reaches to them, and how they take the people. They mean that the technology is, they miniaturize the people.
Mm.
Okay, they actually give a flood of light. As the flood of light actually falls on the nude bodies, only nude bodies can be taken.
Mhm.
If you wear the clothes, they don't have any technology to pick you up, and therefore they are hunting the Maldives.
Mm.
In Maldives there are private huts, and behind the hut, they are actually romancing nude. So these nude families only can be flooded, and they are miniaturized in a capsule. They are taken up into that particular rocket, and they are immediately, taken up to their own planet.
One
And
naughty
then,
question.
yes,
One naughty question.
yes, yes,
As you said, you write out of your experience.
yes.
Was there any experience in Maldives?
At least there was a total imagination. Because miniaturization, there were two problems when I wrote this novel. The one is how to miniaturize them, and the second is how to carry them uh, to the planet, and the third is how to communicate the that planet people with the earth. That is very interestingly jailed,
It is interesting.
very interestingly. क्योंकि there is a style of those people, when they pick up a person, they always leave one of the things that they are carrying with them. For example, when they pick up this couple, ये जो पैंजन होता है ना, पैंजन,
Gunguru or
घुंघरू, तो एक जो है घुंघरू उस लेडी के पैर का, वो घुंघरू वहां छोड़ गए.
actually, I had the doubt when you said they will leave a thing because they were nude. What would they have?
यस. ना अब क्या हुआ कि ये घुंघरू तो छोड़ गए. अब इन्वेस्टिगेशन में घुंघरू मिल गया. They took the घुंघरू and put them into the custody. Okay. After 1 year, they were sent back to Earth. Okay, with their own child, because she was pregnant when she was taken. Now, when they came back to Earth, they were off. No memory. They both started telling me, we don't know. See, we were lying there on the beach, and today I'm at home. So they never knew what happened within this 1 year. So ultimately, there is a message which comes from the planet, because within this 1 year, there is a lot of messaging going on. And one of the messages, it comes, and that message is, see, we have left one pendant. So ask that lady to wear the pendant and make a romance at night, then only she will get the memory, and this man also will get a memory. If she wears the pendant, she will get a memory, and when this boy makes a romance with her, he will get a memory. अब ये सब हमारा दिमाग है, वो कुछ भी घुसा दिया. And ultimately, both of them, they get a memory. And then through interview, I have told the whole story.
Sorry, in flashback.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What happened?
Quite interesting.
ऐसा जो बनाया है उसको. तो ऐसे ही चल रहा है एक्चुअली. व्हाट इफ यू आस्क मी कि हाउ all these things can be linked. See, once you start with one subject, you have to be behind it. ये जो है ना, ब्रेक बहुत डेंजरस होता है. सब निकल जाता है सर. यू हैव टू गो, बिकॉज मेरे जो रहता है, स्केच बनाता हूँ मैं. पहले स्टोरी का स्केच बनाता हूँ. उनके कैरेक्टर्स होते हैं, उनको मैं नाम देता हूँ ABCDEFGHIJ. और बिल्कुल जैसे अपना सिबलिंग्स होते हैं ना, ये एक बच्चे दो कौन, इसका फादर किसको बनाना है, इसको गुंडा किसको बनाना
Like a
है.
family tree.
Family tree.
Hmm.
So that entire tree is made, then the tasks are assigned, and then the whole story starts.
But how long do you take to write a story?
I usually, this social kind of a story doesn't take much time. But
Yes.
when you have 80% science and 20% story, means साहित्य, लिटरेचर, तो उसमें जरा टाइम लगता है. क्योंकि you have to generate a technology, okay, which is not existing. Okay.
Out of imagination,
या
based
तो
on facts.
इमेजिन करना पड़ता है कि क्या हो सकता है. अभी देर इज अ यूटेरस, आर्टिफिशियल यूटेरस. There are maybe a hospital. In that hospital, there are 500 uteri, okay, and where the children are growing in that. Now, one of the child, one of the children, he gets the Down syndrome. Okay, while inside the uterus. अब ये जो डाउन सिंड्रोम है, इस डाउन सिंड्रोम को आपको करेक्ट करना है. अभी देखो, ये अभी डाउन सिंड्रोम कैसे होता है यूटेरस में. आर्टिफिशियल यूटेरस ऑल्सो इज स्टिल अ स्टोरी.
Yes.
बट नाउ आई हैव पुट दैट चाइल्ड इन डेंजर. अभी ये जो चाइल्ड है ना, ये चाइल्ड किसका है मालूम है क्या? दिस इज अ चाइल्ड ऑफ एन एस्ट्रोनॉट. द एस्ट्रोनॉट इज देयर इन द स्काई लैब.
Yes. Hmm.
अच्छा, ये जो एस्ट्रोनॉट है, ये एस्ट्रोनॉट ने क्या किया है? एस्ट्रोनॉट के बीज नहीं लिए. शी हैज नॉट डोनेटेड हर एग्स, neither she has any husband. She has donated her skin cells, and she has donated her maybe some क्या memory gland. मेमोरी ग्लैंड बोलते हैं ना, मेमोरी ग्लैंड सेल्स. मेमोरी ग्लैंड सेल और इसको यूनियन बना के जैसे डॉली बनाई, वैसा ये बच्चा बन रहा है. और ये जब ग्रो हो रहा है तो शी इज मॉनिटरिंग दैट बॉय, आवर चाइल्ड, फ्रॉम स्काई लैब. ओके, दिस इज सिनेरियो.
Hmm.
अब इसको जब गड़बड़ हो जाती है तो डॉक्टर्स, दे स्टैंड अराउंड इट, एंड वेरी अनफॉर्चुनेटली शी सीज इट फ्रॉम द स्काई. कि अरे, व्हाई आर द डॉक्टर्स अराउंड माय चाइल्ड? देयर इज समथिंग रॉन्ग. And therefore, the lady, the gynecologist, is her friend, and therefore she immediately talks with her friend. Ki, yes, madam, what is wrong? Is there anything dangerous? So she said, nothing, nothing. We will sort out. ऐसे ऐसे कर दियो. अब उसमें ये जो है डाउन सिंड्रोम में जो डीएनए का एक टुकड़ा, एक पार्ट ऑफ अ डीएनए इज करप्ट, बिकॉज ऑफ विच इट टेक्स प्लेस, इट हैपन्स. तो ये जो टुकड़ा है, द पार्ट ऑफ दिस डीएनए इज नाउ टू बी रिप्लेस्ड. ओके, और उसके इसके रिप्लेसमेंट के लिए टेक्नोलॉजी आई है, जो अभी बिल्कुल रुडिमेंट्री स्टेज में है, अभी वो बाहर नहीं आई. तो उसका नाम क्या है? बायो ब्लॉक्स. इट इज द बायो ब्रिक टेक्नोलॉजी. बायो ब्रिक्स मीन्स such kind of bricks are available in the bank, their bank. अभी क्या है देखो कि डाउन सिंड्रोम इज अ स्टैंडर्ड डिजीज. देयरफॉर ये जो करप्ट पीस है वो स्टैंडर्ड है. अब ये यदि स्टैंडर्ड है तो हमारे बैंक पे ये स्टैंडर्ड जो हेल्दी लिंक है वो भी रेडी है. समझ गया था? सो दैट लेडी डॉक्टर एक्चुअली कॉल्स द बायो इन्फर्मेटेशन, एंड दैट बायो इन्फर्मेटेशन बोलता है कि यस मैडम, आई विल टेल यू विद इन 12 hours कि whether I can do it. So after 12 hours, he phones that doctor and says that very fortunately, the template, okay, for that corrupt part is available. टेम्पलेट इज अवेलेबल. टेम्पलेट समझते हो ना, ये टेम्पलेट है, अब उसको लगा के हमको पूरा करना है. टेम्पलेट इज अवेलेबल, एंड दैट इज हाउ दे आर रिलीव्ड. आफ्टर 7 days, out of that template, that bioinformatician makes a piece, that is brick. It's a sort of a brick. When you do the brick work, how you put a brick, so like that you have to fix a brick. अब ये ब्रिक जब वहां फिक्स किया जाता है तो उसके लिए 3 चीजें लगती है. समझ गए? एक चीज क्या है? टू आइडेंटिफाई वेयर द प्रॉब्लम इज. हमारे बॉडी में प्रॉब्लम कहाँ है उसको आइडेंटिफाई करने के लिए एक स्पेसिफिक टेक्नोलॉजी यूज की जाती है. दूसरी क्या है? टू कट, the unwanted piece, that is known as a chemical scissor. That chemical scissor cuts it. And third is what? There is a healthy piece now brought from the bank. That healthy piece is introduced and it also is directed and gets fitted into that vacant place. And that is how this takes place. So this child needs maybe 7 injections, one injection of 4 hours each. ये डॉक्टर गर्गे का सलाह है. ये कहीं लिखा नहीं है, ये हमने बनाया कि भाई ऐसे 4 इंजेक्शन आपको लेने हैं, सॉरी 7 इंजेक्शन लेने हैं. अब ये 7 इंजेक्शन जब देते हो तो क्या होता है कि धीरे 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 क्या होता है, ये कटिंग एंड पेस्टिंग ये शुरू हो जाता है. एंड देन यू टेस्ट द यूरेथ्रल फ्लूइड. अभी वो बच्चा तो यूटेरस में है ना, तो यूटेरस में हम डाल रहे और ये बना रहे सब. बच्चा जो बिल्कुल एम्ब्रियोनिक स्टेज में है, And then they test it and they find that the Down syndrome is no more, and that boy is rectified. So this particular news, no, she gives to the mother that yes, your child is okay, and we could achieve it. तो अब डिलीवरी का टाइम आ जाता है. नाउ लिसन केयरफुली व्हाट टेक्नोलॉजी आई हैव ब्रॉट हियर. डिलीवरी का टाइम आता है, तो ये उसकी जो फ्रेंड है वो क्या बोलती है कि तू जब ये सेल्स, व्हेन यू डोनेटेड द सेल्स इन माय हॉस्पिटल, आई हैव गिवन यू वन स्मॉल बटन, a very small sensor kind of a button. Okay, so she says, yes, I remember, I have that. Now exactly the delivery is going to take place tomorrow at 12 o'clock. So exactly maybe 5 to 10 minutes before, you have to put that particular sensor on your, this bambi, means your
Navel.
navi,
Navel.
yeah, navel, and you have to just press it and keep it pressed. You will actually sense the delivery pains. Okay,
Mm.
because of that you will actually feel the delivery pains. You would like to have it or not, that is your choice. But if you want that the child is being delivered, then you will be sensing it if you put it. And she puts it. And for that 5 minutes of time, she experiences, great experience. And here the child is coming out of a uterus, artificial uterus, because of which they have appointed a nurse. And that nurse is an android. Listen, huh? that nurse is not a
Human.
normal lady.
Mm.
It is an android. That android is exactly depicted like that of an astronaut.
Mm.
Okay, exactly means to what extent, the android has a skin cover of that lady, because we have already taken the skin cells, so they have made a big skin out of it with the tissue culture, and they have given a layer on that android with that particular tissue cells and skin. So why this? Because that child should feel as if she is my mother.
Yes.
That is known as the microbiome. Means, you have got lot many things on your skin. The child is very cozy because he gets all that. And like that, here the android is making a delivery, and there she is sensing the delivery pains, and ultimately the child is born. And then she says, her mother, means the astronaut, says, Rama Janmala. So the name of that story is Rama Janmala.
Ramajan.
And so, see, the interesting, all these technologies you have to bring in stories. And in fact, if you see, nothing is true.
But everything
Actually,
might become true in future.
it is happening.
It is
That
happening.
one thing is true, it is happening.
It is
It's
happening.
not that something is created, it is happening. In Germany, there is a hospital with 200 artificial uteri, and the things are happening. So, time comes when you don't need father and mother to deliver a child. And that is what I told you in the
Yes.
uh,
Hermaphroditic.
hermaphroditic, yeah,
Mm.
hermaphroditic case. So that is how maybe in maybe 50 years, 100 years,
Maybe
uh,
sooner.
maybe sooner, maybe very
Yes.
soon.
Maybe soon. And
Because
now, how do you feel when you write a science fiction story? Because you have written other types of writing too,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
non-fiction. But
See,
why? What type
when
of
you
satisfaction you derive from science fiction stories?
when I write science, hardcore science, I give more emphasis on reference work. Okay, whatever is exactly existing. For example, if I want to write a story of a Nobel laureate of 2024, now what he did is definitely very complicated, but I have to understand that. I can't imagine anything, and therefore I must know the whole microbiology or the biotechnology behind it, and that is therefore the joy is very different. But here the joy is still different and more, because I am making something new out of it. I am making something new out of it. And as I told you, many stories here, so they are all, coming from what they are not existing, and I'm creating the protocols for them. The protocols may change, they may be wrong, but they are protocols, and these
Yes.
protocols are giving me the depth. And therefore, for most of the magazines nowadays, they ask me to write an article. So I said, would the science fiction story will do? They said, why not, sir? You send it, because that will be more interesting. And that is how they have started accepting the stories in the science magazines. That is what I'm trying to tell you. Not in the general magazines, but in the science magazines, they want now propagate all these things.
That's
So,
wonderful.
yeah, yeah,
Mm. So actually, we have discussed only a small part of your entire overview of writing. So what I feel is we may we may have to have multiple meetings like this to
right,
really to know what you have done and what you are doing and the style of writing. So
yeah,
let us call this part one of the meeting, so that
yes,
in
yes,
future we will have another part, second part of the meeting, where we will discuss your
yes,
non-fiction and your science writing,
right.
because you wrote non. But before we close, actually, I want to know your education qualification.
My education qualification is I am PhD in microbiology. Then I am a gold medalist in science journalism.
Science journalism.
Science journalism, yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm MBA in environment management system.
Hmm.
These three things as the my actual uh,
Academic career.
academic qualifications. And behind besides that, I'm trained in adventure based activities. I am a trainer. I am a OBT trainer. OBT is outdoor management training. It is known as. We take the executives out into the jungle and give them the real situations and ask them to find solutions on them, because we do not believe that solutions can be brought on paper. Solutions you have to think and actually solve the problems. So problem solving is therefore there. So like that, mountaineering, then adventure based counseling, these are my other activities
Activities.
that I'm doing. And very fortunately keeping quite good health even after 72s. And so I think if I go on keeping it, I will be doing more and more for the people and for the society.
Yes. Wish that you will keep much more better health and do a lot more that is expected of you. So we will call this a small comma for the meeting, and
Yes,
then meet again to discuss about your other sorts of writing. I'm very thankful to you for joining me in these conversations. Namaskaram.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And I will stop recording now. But
Yeah,
please give me the addresses or phone numbers of other writers whom you know, with whom
yeah,
you
yeah,
are friends, so that I
surely,
can have them in the show. Okay?
right, surely, surely.
Thank you very much.